I'm Neil Zumwalt.
And I'm Mohamed Ahmad.
And we are two of the three founders of Credmark. Exciting times here at Credmark.
We're about a day away from launching our token. Before that all begins, we wanted to discuss a little bit about how we're launching the token. It's been a topic of much debate, and chatter, and interest in our Telegram group, in other developer communities in the crypto industry. We're just going to talk a little bit about why we did it this way, the advantages, if there are disadvantages, and sort of the impact it could have going forward on how protocols and projects launch these tokens.
Yeah. So I just want to say before we get started, our community manager Tom is fielding your questions in the general channel, correct? On the Discord. So if you have questions for us, drop them in there and he will curate those and ask us during this live stream. So
let's start with how people have been doing. I mean, let's see, crypto token launches are 3 years old, and this current industry, the way people are doing it is about 6 months old. But from ancient times of 6 months ago, do you want to talk about some of the ways people have been doing this?
Sure, absolutely. So our ancestors 6 months ago used to do all kinds of crazy things that to launch on distributed exchanges or in some sort of distributed way. When launching tokens would happen, people were using platforms in order to do things like bonding curves. Then Balancer had a really novel solution to the IDO, but even before that, people were using Uniswap to launch on DEXs, and they all had different pros and cons behind each of them. But what we've seen is that the DeFi tools have become more and more sophisticated, and we anticipate will continue to grow in sophistication to allow for these more novel types of token launches, such as what we're doing.
Yeah, so I think before we decided on this current IDO strategy, we were thinking about an LBP, right?
Yep.
Can you talk a little about what an LBP looks like and why we in the end decided to go away from it?
Yes, sure. So the LBPs
which stands for Liquidity Bootstrapping
P.
Wait, I forgot what the P stands for.
Pool, is it? It's not pool.
I think it's Liquidity Bootstrapping Pool.
I don't remember. Anyways, it's Balancer's product, and it's sort of before the LBP. If you wanted to launch on a DEX, you had to put in 50% of whatever the other side of your liquidity was, along with your token, and they had to be equal in value. So if you wanted to start your token at a price that was reasonable, but you had a lot of liquidity to distribute to the market, that became prohibitively expensive for small companies. Because imagine that you're trying to sell 10 million tokens at 35 cents, for example. That means that you would need $3.5 million to have an equal-sided liquidity pool that then people could start buying and selling into because of the way that these pools worked on distributed exchanges. So the solution that Balancer came up with was, instead of a 50-50 pool, you can start with a 5%, 95% pool, or essentially whatever the startup wanted, and they could provide 5% of the liquidity on one side and put their tokens on the other, and then allow people to start trading. The problem with that is, and then they could adjust the weight, so 5% up to 6% until you either sold all your tokens or got to 50% and then just provided liquidity from there. There's a number of different ways to do it. The problem with that is that it starts at a really high price, and then the price just plummets over the first several days or hours of the sale, however long that people wanted the sale to have.
Which, as founders, can be very depressing to watch.
It can be super depressing to watch. It provides like a historical context for your token that you're never going to reach your all-time highs, because your all-time highs are artificially inflated from the get-go. So we don't want to. We said, how do we avoid that problem of the LBPs and not have this sort of like initial artificially high price that will just define the token for the lifespan of the token, which we hope is literally forever.
And then, so what led us to Uniswap?
So Uniswap, we were doing a lot of research as Uniswap started to happen about the protocol itself, and because we were building a Uniswap risk management tool. So we began to really understand the dynamics that exist within there. And it had always been plausible to me that we could release a token on Uniswap. Obviously, people have to start liquidity pools on Uniswap v3 as well as Uniswap v2, but it became interesting to me when I realized that you could perform the same actions as a balancer LBP, but without the downsides. And that actually came to me in a dream.
Okay, let's unpack that aspect of Uniswap. Like, what about, so we're talking about concentrated liquidity as like this new feature that V3 allows. Can you briefly explain what that is and then how we're applying it to our token launch?
Absolutely. So concentrated liquidity allows you to essentially set a range of prices that you're willing to buy and sell your two assets at, that you're willing to swap between the two assets. In the case of our launch, it will be our token, CMK, and USDC. So you can set, when you are setting up your liquidity pools, you can say, I think that this is going to stay between the range of $1 and $5. And you can say, I'm going to set my concentrated liquidity between that range, and while there's trading happening in that range, I'm going to collect fees. So the fees are what makes it valuable to somebody who is a liquidity provider, because obviously you want to get some returns for locking up your assets for a certain amount of time. Now, Uniswap v3 has a really interesting, another dimension on top of the concentrated liquidity, which is you can set those ranges wherever you want, so they don't have to be symmetrical. So in Uniswap v2, if I was going to add, let's say USDC to a pool, however much USDC I add, in order to make it symmetrical, I had to add the same amount of whatever the other asset is. If it was USDC ETH, for example, I would have to, if I put in $1,000 of USDC, I had to put in $1,000 of ETH. Now, with the price ranges, you can actually set that range so that it's asymmetrical. So if I have much more ETH than USDC, for example, I can put in $5,000 of ETH and $1,000 of USDC. But that means that the price that I'm setting it at is going to fall toward the downward edge more quickly, which is all right. You know, people are willing to do that. And so the combination of having asymmetrical liquidity pools in concentrated liquidity pools and being able to apply the downward pressure of an LBP in order to do good price discovery via swaps themselves, I realized that there is a way to manually do an LBP that reduces that initial downward price curve to actually reward people who are paying attention and who want to get in quickly, but still be able to do a fair launch strategy.
Right, so what's cool about the Uniswap V3 launch is that we're not starting at a high price, we're starting at a fairly low price, encouraging early participants.
Yep.
But for people watching on the sidelines, as that price goes up, we will be manually pushing it back down.
Yep.
For every 2 hours.
Downward
right?
price pressure.
Applying downward pressure so that there's always an opportunity, no one gets priced out, and then via that we actually just realize good price discovery.
That's absolutely correct.
So in the little blog post you wrote, you mentioned that there's a potential for us to actually stabilize the price.
Yes, there is.
Explain how that might work.
So one of the interesting things about concentrated liquidity is you can actually enforce correlation between two assets. If you have a buy and sell range that is relatively narrow, then there's a lot of liquidity that can be bought and sold within that range without moving the price very much. Now, if there's less liquidity in some range and there's buying and selling happening in that range, that makes it extremely volatile. So what you end up with is sort of a center of gravity around the high amounts of liquidity, because if it's volatile over here, eventually it'll swing back to a place where it sort of gets stuck. So you can enforce a certain amount of correlation that's not explicitly defined, but allows us to say, hey, we're a growing protocol. We want to take this in a way that allows for people to rely on our token as a method of payment for developing models, and then they can, essentially it's a more reliable asset to have long term, because we really want people to understand that this token, when you're in for the long term, because we're going all the way.
Awesome. So obviously the only place to buy and sell CMK right now is going to be on Uniswap, as far as where we're providing liquidity.
Yep.
Are there opportunities for people to maybe use that fact to their advantage?
There definitely is. So we're, as Credmark, the organization, we're only providing, like he said, liquidity on Uniswap right now. We fully anticipate that the other permissionless protocols are going to suddenly be getting influxes of CMK into their pools, but that will have to be provided by the community themselves, because we're really interested in the concentrated liquidity position, and that could mean that you can actually trade with a semi-stable asset, which we actually haven't seen out in the market very much, because so much of the liquidity in the first 6 months is going to be provided by Credmark itself.
Interesting.
Arbitrage opportunities.
Lots of fun there. Let's see. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we open it up to some questions, if there are questions?
I would like to hear what people are asking right away, if anyone's asked anything. I'm shaking my head no. No questions? No questions. Well, if any come up, we'll be in our Telegram group channels, we'll be answering questions on Twitter, we'll be asking questions in the Discord. So anyone who wants to get a hold of us, we're making ourselves super available during these next 3 days. Our IDO launches tomorrow at noon.
Central time.
US Central Time. There's also European Central Time.
That's true.
We're in Texas. So, and what else do we need to let the people know? I think that's about it.
Yep, just stay glued to Telegram, Twitter, Discord. That's where all the action is going to be happening. I know we're doing some airdrops leading up to the IDO, so look out for those.
Ooh, what kind of airdrops are we talking about?
You'll have to check out Twitter.
Tell them.
We've got like some great content for friends and family and other people involved who don't necessarily understand the mechanics of DeFi and how to participate in the IDO. So we'll put that video up in Telegram and on Twitter. And yeah, we're gonna be putting out content all week. AMAs every day, talking to some of our investors, some partners, some advisors, other folks in our sort of ecosystem who have interesting things to say, so stick around for that. And yeah, I mean, this is uncharted territory, even for DeFi, even for crypto. What we're about to do the next 3 days has literally never been done. And, see what happens.
We will see what happens.
You want to talk about the video explaining how to actually participate in the IDO?
Yeah, so that will be available, I believe, on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, but I'll put the link in Telegram. We'll probably share it on Twitter. And yeah, just pass it around to your friends and family who aren't crypto savvy. We'll make them crypto savvy.
We'll help you out.
Cool.
You want to play us out on the ukulele?
The ukulele was taken from me.
It's a classical guitar. No, it's all right. We'll just turn it off. Oh, there is a question.
We'll see who Harambe is texting.
Oh.
Harambe.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
Harambe asks, have you already stated who your competitors are?
Oh,
Well, I mean, this was an IDO talk, but we can briefly touch on some competitors. I think, we've been in this space for 3 years, so we've really seen every single company come up and experience success or experience failure. And we have kind of borrowed ideas from a lot of different people. I think on the consumer end, especially with this first Uniswap tool, there are obviously lots of great teams out there building really cool tools on top of Uniswap. Uniswap has explicitly stated that they've made their product more complex in order for folks like us and others to build cool tools. So Visor, Charm Finance, Somalia, how do you say that? Somalia have some products out that are helping retail folks kind of make better decisions. But that's only the tip of the spear for us. I think as far as our platform is concerned, we've taken some ideas from Numerai as far as ranking models that are working to achieve various types of success. We aren't directly competitive to Numerai in the sense that they are a hedge fund and we are not a hedge fund, but as far as how they are sort of sourcing the best data and the best tools, we think that they've done some cool things there. As far as providing data, obviously Dune exists, the graph exists. Competitors is a strange word. I think that the more places to get data, the better. So I don't see it as like a zero-sum game in that sense.
No, and in terms of like other people are providing risk models too. Like Gauntlet provides risk and Spectral provides risk as well.
Right, and
in various forms.
There's all types of risk. So I think the competition is good. It needs to exist. You can't just have one source of truth or source of product from one company. You need a community of protocols sort of all working to improve the entire experience for everybody. But we'll definitely get into kind of what our competitive landscape looks like going forward. There's also a great, if you read our AMA that Spectre Group did, that was a question that was posed, and I think I potentially answered that question more succinctly in that AMA. So check out our Medium for that blog or for that transcript. Anything else?
No other questions. Thank you, Harambe, for your participation.
All right, wonderful. Well, stick around because we've got more AMAs coming this week. We might play a few tunes for y'all. Yeah,
there could be some a music element. We've got a chess tournament signed up tonight. I think that's something we're going to be pushing. So if you want to win some rewards, if you can beat our team at chess, which I don't think you can.
I think they can.
Maybe?
I think they can.